So we'll start with this cliff on the left. So this cliff has so many different colors. So this is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to start with a nice bright green. So I used permanent green deep and I mixed it with some of the cadmium yellow deep. And I'm also going to mix it with some of this blue. And I'm very gently going to just use my knife and kind of bring that color down across the face of the cliff. Just making small marks that look natural. And I'm also going to have to add some more yellow to it. So here's some cadmium yellow deep. Put that in here. I'm going to bring that all the way across the face of the cliff and add a little more yellow. So the reason I want to add more yellow is that even though it's in shade, I want to make sure that this green doesn't interfere with the green that's in the water. And I do see a lot of yellow in it anyway, but I want to make sure that I have that variety. Now, as it moves across this section, it becomes more orange. So I'm going to pick up some cadmium red light, some titanium white, and some cadmium yellow deep. And I need more white. And still more white. I love mixing paint. Okay, so I'm going to put that right across here. Now up in this section, this is still in shadow, so that same orange color needs to be darker. So I'm going to add some of this violet. So if you don't have violet mixed up already, you can mix ultramarine blue and madder lake. I'm going to add a little more red to it because it's still very reddish. And red is wonderful in this painting. We need red. Red is a tool because we have a lot of green and a lot of blues. So we need the red in the cliff. That helps us balance all the colors on the painting. Did you know when you add green to a painting, it makes your reds look redder and vice versa? So if you have a painting and it has something red in it and you don't think it looks red enough, it might be because you don't have enough green or bright enough green. Might not be because you need more red. So to the base, or to the underneath part of this bright orange, I'm adding some of this same dark red mixture, just to give it a little dimension. And now to the sunny part of the cliff, I'm going to add some brighter beige. So I used titanium white and cadmium yellow deep and a little bit of this beige mixture. And that's too dark, so I'm going to mix quite a bit more white with that. Now this is a section of the painting where you don't have to have your paint mixture completely mixed up ahead of time. If it's not perfectly mixed up, it'll do something really neat, which is called marbling. And it will make streaky lines of the unmixed colors as you move the paint into the canvas, and that will mimic the look of texture. So it's sort of like you don't have to draw those lines. They just sort of happen because you didn't mix up your paint all the way, and that turned out to be something that worked in your favor in your painting. So there's that, and now I do want it to have some more texture though than what is already there. So I'm going to go back to my pointy knife and I'm going to mix the violet with some blue and Madder Lake. And I'm going to use a little bit of paint on my knife, not a ton. And I'm going to make little lines. I'm kind of turning my knife to the side. You see that? And I just want to put in some of the interesting lines of this beautiful cliff. But I don't want to put in too much because I don't want to take away from how light it is. If I put in too much, then from a distance it'll start to be darker visually. But I do want to have some really dark at the base of it where it meets up with the water. So I'm just using the same color that I had mixed up for the kelp. And I'm putting that right along the bottom. Like that. And I'm going to soften this edge and pull this dark right down into the water. So a soft edge, which is a blended edge or even an edge where the values are broken as you move along the edge from light to dark, is a wet edge. So if you want to make an edge look wet, for instance, where water meets the cliff, then you need to do a little bit of blending like I just did. And I'm going to take a little more of this cliff color and bring it down here. So we've got light plus some texture and a really dark bottom edge. And I would say some of my texture lines are a little too strong, so I'm just going back over them with some of this light color to give it some variety. There we are. And now we'll paint the shadow section of the cliff, meaning this part right here. So I'm going to take titanium white and mix it into this violet section with ultramarine blue and Madder Lake. And I'm going to mix a little bit of this beige color here. If you don't have some mixed up, you can use some cadmium yellow deep, or you can even use an earth color like raw sienna. But you want a third color that's kind of a warm orangish yellow to balance out the blue and the cool red. And now I'm using this knife to go right in here through the shadowy side of my cliff with this gorgeous blue violet. I'm going right up along the edges of my plants. And I'm going to stand back and assess how that's looking, and that looks really nice. And now I'm going to put in those really dark, cavernous sea caves. This sea cave actually goes all the way through to the other side. So when you walk on that trail I told you about, you can look back and see through the cave. And sometimes seals go inside of this cave. And when they bark, you can really hear them. It echoes. It's very neat. So there's our two caves. This one is just a hole in the rocks. It's not a real cave. Now, there's kelp coming out of the cave, or collecting around the cave, and there's a really dark line here at the base of it. So I'm going to use the same color and bring that around here, like that. So notice how this edge comes down and over. Same for this side. Now I'm going to add some of this beige to my violet mixture, and I'm going to put some of that within this cave shape here. So remember, temperature creates dimension also, and we need to have a little different temperature on the cliff than we do in the shadow, but it has to be harmonious, and so that's why we start with the violet. We can get all this great texture with these wonderful little knives. Now I'm going to put a little bit lighter value here. Just trying to go around that cave with thicker strokes, and notice how I pulled down and I pushed the paint over to the side, so I've got a really thick sculpted edge right by this cliff. So the paint inside the cliff, where the hole is dark, is thinner, and the paint that's around it is sculpted, and so that sculpted look really helps me get that look of light and shadow. Now remember, there's a few areas where the sun is coming around and just catching a few of the edges of the texture of these rocks. So I've got this lighter, warm beige color that's the same one that I mixed up for the place where the cliff is in the sun, and I'm going to just very gently and very lightly, with a very light touch, go along the edge here and just pick up a little bit of the sun hitting the side of that cliff. Isn't that pretty? And a little bit down here, and a little bit on this side. And even a little bit, let's see, right on this section here. There we are. So we've got a lot of nice dimension happening already in this sea cliff. And I like this warm edge so much, I'm gonna make this edge, whoops, that's too dark. I wanted to make the edge of where that sand meets the sunny, where the sunny part of the sand meets the shadow part of the sand. I wanted to make that a little bit brighter. So I just mixed some titanium white and cadmium yellow medium. I just wanted to make that a bit brighter. And this edge in here, where this violet sand meets the cliff, I want to just add a little detail to that as well. So I'm going to just go in here with this lighter color on the tip of my very small knife. I'm very lightly working around the base of this cliff. And putting some deep blue right in the center of it. And that really makes it look like it has some depth. Then I'm going to mix cadmium red light, not yellow, cadmium red light and ultramarine blue. I'm going to put one really dark spot right in the middle there. There we are. Now, I'm also going to add a few dark details to underneath where the plants meet the cliff. So I've grabbed some of my cadmium yellow deep, cadmium red light, and it's mixed with some of the green mixture here. It's almost time for me to clean my palette. I just want to put some of that extra color and texture in here. Now this looks a little bit flat, and I'm going to put some of those dots of green bushes on the top here. You see those? So we'll start with the dark color first. the dark green, and then on top of that I'll put a lighter green. So cadmium lemon and this dark green together. And a little more cadmium yellow medium. And we'll put just a little, oops, no, need some white. I'll put a little dot on top of those dark green mounds. And a little of this dark color along the top edge of the cliff and where these bushes are.